So Nikki said, but that could also play out as a woman becoming codependent with being against not wanting to be the masculine energy in the relationship. So I think that what she's saying is that when you put it in your mind that you don't want to be the masculine persona, you might end up being codependent on your partner. I'm going to challenge that and say that I feel like Black women have a tendency to want to be Superwoman, right? And do everything on our own, where we see receiving, which is something that naturally as women we should want, right? So men like to give, women like to receive. Think about our body parts, think about how it works. Give, receive, right? It's okay to receive, but I think that we see that as kind of like a weakness, where if I allow this person to do something for me, I'm codependent on him, or, you know, I'm seen as less than because he's giving something to me. What do you feel like? What is your experience with that as a Black man who's dated Black women?
All right, so let's get into this. So, not my current relationship, but I've had about 4 serious relationships, right? In my lifetime, I'll say how old I am. I'm 37 years old, all right? So, in one of those past relationships, I dealt with the combativeness of an alpha female personality, right? And so I'll give an example of what that looks like. We went to the Jeezy concert, the 10-year anniversary for Jeezy, right? There were about, if I'm sitting right here, to the other side of me was my girlfriend. About 10 to 15 seats down were empty, okay? To the right of me were 2 grown men, okay? Now, we got to about 5 minutes before the show was about to start. I look to my girlfriend and I say, hey, once the show starts, can you move down 1 seat so me and the dude ain't, sharing armrests? And then if somebody comes, we can just move back into our seats. She said, no, I'm not moving. No, I'm not moving. I'm like, what? Wait, what? And so I was like, okay, I want to have a good day. I'm sure y'all been there in those type of relationships. I want to have a good day. I got to pick and choose my battle. Okay, so I'm sitting there. 5 minutes go by, lights come on, show starts. The dude looks at me and says, hey, do y'all mind if y'all move down just 1 seat so we got a little room right here? She says, okay, no problem. She almost got left at the Fox.
How did that make you feel? I would have been so agitated by that.
I was, after the show, it was an argument instantly. Yeah. And so I say that to say I've been there. I've dealt with that type of woman. But what I found out was she actually had her father in her life, but her father was outside of the home. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And then her mother, of course, she grew up in the same house with her mother. Her mother was the provider. Her mother was the person that led that household. Though she was still able to see her father, he was not in the house. And so those type of personalities existed not only with her, but with her mother and the other people within her family. Here's the thing. As a man who does have a dominant personality, that doesn't work for me. Right. However, there could be other men who are not as dominant that personality could work for. Mm-hmm. So I'm not here to tell women not or to be dominant or alpha-like. What I will say is be what you want to be in order to attract what you want to attract.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And Nikki, you hit this right on the head. She said that it's knowing about balance, right? And I think that there are going to be times where we kind of shift between different energies, right? Between masculine and feminine. It's not always set in stone that I'm going to be 100% feminine. We have to be able to adjust. Right. But I think that the psychology in me is coming out. So I think that this being stuck in this masculine state, or what people would call a wounded feminine energy, a lot of it is tied to trauma, right? And I think that we kind of feel better about this, or it makes our ego feel better to say, well, I'm not going to do this because you're controlling instead of, well, I can't operate in the way that I naturally want to behave because I have traumas, right? So even kind of thinking about your ex, where you were like, her father was present, but he was separate. Same case with my parents, but because father might have been in and out, whatever the case may be, it creates an insecure attachment as a child, right? Because like you don't know if your parent is coming or going. They might have been toxic, whatever the case may be. And people who have those type of traumas, insecure attachments with their parents, they have very, very rigid boundaries, right? Very rigid. So it's like nothing in my life, I had control over it. But the one thing I can control is the way that I allow people that show up in my life. I can control my career. I can dominate in so many other areas because I'm compensating for what was kind of taken from me as a child or, when I was being brought up. And so I feel like that is a big thing that we just need to do that shadow work and understand, because a lot of this, I think, is a trauma response. But I believe that feminism and, other things that we're seeing in the media, it kind of eliminates that type of shadow work where we recognize those things because it's normalized to be like, you can do it too. You don't need a man to help you. But all of those things are happening in our heads subconsciously.
And here's the thing. Maybe you could do it without a man, but do you want to do it without a man?
Right.
Right? I think that's what we have to understand. Maybe there's people out there who are not looking for a relationship. Maybe there are people out there who want to be single and want to dominate their space, and they are content with that. But for the person that is wanting to actually connect with another person, even as an alpha-like male, you still have to have some type of femininity characteristics. And I think a lot of men are scared to admit that. But here's the thing. If I always went to my old lady talking about, hey, do this, do that, do this, she's not going to respond to that. So I have to be able to connect to her femininity. I'm going to do what's necessary in order to connect to her on that level. But you have to be comfortable within your masculinity. And a lot of men seem to not be comfortable with their masculinity, just like a lot of females are not comfortable in their femininity.
Speak on it. So I want to expand on that. But what I will say, kind of going back to what you said before, I think that there are people who are out there and they're like, yo, I just want to be single. I want to do my own thing. Shout out to Tara. My girl Tara's big on that. Like I'm living my best life. I'm my own soulmate, and I get that and I respect it. But are those the people who are online saying that men are not protecting women, right? So then it's like you have a clash of beliefs, or it's like, okay, you're set in the fact, like the way that you're operating is that of a person who probably would benefit from being single. But at the same time, you're like, but you guys won't protect me. And it's like, well, you're not aligning. The way that you're moving isn't aligning with what it is that you want. And I think that's the problem.
You have to be in position to receive, right? If you have a type of energy that says, leave me alone, people are going to leave you alone. If your energy says that you don't have time for no man, then men are not going to make time for you, right? So whatever you are wanting to receive, you have to actually reflect that.